Welcome back to Take a Knee with Mike and JD. I'm Mike.
And I'm JD.
And so we're going to be recapping week 10. Both of our teams got a win this week. So, uh, well, I don't know about you, but my recap is definitely going to be a lot more chipper than it has been in recent weeks. But I'm keen to hear what you thought of your Steelers.
Yeah, well, the last 2 weeks have been good because they had a bye week 2 weeks ago, so they didn't lose, and then this weekend they didn't lose either. So, um, the Steelers played like how you would expect the Steelers to play this week. There were still some frustrating things with the offense, but they traded away Chase Claypool, and they're using George Pickens a lot more, who is a much better wide receiver than Chase Claypool. We obviously had the reigning Defensive Player of the Year come back in T.J. Watt, and I think you could really tell that the Steelers were healthy. And T.J. Watt immediately made an impact on the game. He had a sack. What we were really missing is that pressure. Without T.J. Watt, that's really why the Steelers were getting picked apart a lot, because our cover guys aren't 5-6 second cover guys. They're there. It's supposed to be a short cover because your guys are supposed to be in on the quarterback. So whenever our defense doesn't have a pass rush, that's when we get picked apart. But they only let the Saints pass the 50 twice all game. The two times they did, the Saints scored. That's how they scored the 10 points. But besides that, they never, in the second half, they never made it across midfield. So the defense played great. We had KZ come back, who was a bigger signing in the offseason. And we had Levi Wallace. Both those guys made big picks. And our run game, I mean, we ran for over 200 yards. Najee Harris had 99 yards. Kenny Pickett ran the ball a lot. So it was a much more fun game to watch, because it's what you expect from watching the Steelers.
Yep.
And I know that the Saints are bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think that they just went out and beat the Chiefs or the Bills or anything. But when you're playing a team that is worse than you, you're supposed to win in pretty convincing fashion, and I think the Steelers did that. The way that they completely manhandled the Saints' offense was really good. Kenny Pickett didn't make any mistakes this game. He didn't have any turnovers. He, unfortunately, the one negative was he got sacked a lot, so pass protection wasn't very good. But there were a couple of balls that he threw that were like, Rodgers-like in sense of these deep balls that are just like put right on the spot. They should have had a touchdown. Najee Harris drops a great pass from Kenny Pickett in the end zone. And we should have had more points. Unfortunately, Chris Boswell's hurt. So we signed a guy, I guess played for Jacksonville last year, and he looked awful. He missed 2 field goals. That game shouldn't have been really as close as it was. Chris Boswell is one of the best kickers in the league. He does get overshadowed because he plays in the same division as, Justin Tucker, the greatest kicker of all time. But besides 2017, Chris Boswell has been one of the most reliable kickers in all of football, especially from 50 plus. When Heinz Field opened, it was the hardest place to kick. Just the way it was built next to the river with these winds coming down, especially if you were kicking towards what they would call the open side where there weren't any stands. Now they've sort of added stands there, but until Chris Boswell got here, there was like 1 or 2 50-plus yard field goals, and he's hit dozen of them. So that's a big, especially for a team that is touchdown-ophobic and they don't like to score touchdowns. Field goals are a huge part of their game. So without Chris Boswell, I'm a little worried. But still, it was fun to watch this game. Honestly, it was fun to actually go out and beat a team that you're supposed to beat. Work yesterday was good because I didn't have to wake up and the Steelers lost, and I had to see all these articles and listen to the radio. So it's a much better work week when your team comes off a win.
Absolutely.
I'm I know it's funny the way we talked about it last week that I would prefer them to lose. Obviously, as a fan, I don't want them to lose. Like, thinking pragmatically and as a business, you would want those higher draft picks. But, I don't think they still make the playoffs. If they win their next 5 games, they'd still be right there. However, if you look at all those teams that are in the playoffs and on the bubble right now, the Steelers have a long way to go. And they don't hold any tiebreakers over those teams that are above them, really. So they lost to the wrong guys, really, so far this year. So I think this year is to have your O-line develop, which you added guys and a lot of money, so you would hope that they continue to build off of this game for their run blocking. And you hope Kenny Pickett continues to get better. Like I said, I only remember really one bad mistake that he made, that luckily it was a dropped interception. But other than that, he was putting the ball in there really well. He knew when to throw it away, not take the sack. He knew when to pull it down and run it. He had a nice couple of runs. And, yeah, he should have had 1 or 2 touchdowns, but there were unfortunately a couple of drops. But it was nice to see George Pickens included in the offense a lot more. And, yeah, it was nice to have TJ Watt back. So they are playing Cincinnati this week. I don't know if they win, but like I said, I just hope that we see improvement by our younger players each week, no matter the result. I want to see them continue to play better. So I know for you, we were talking during the game, it didn't seem like it was going to be a good week, and then all of a sudden, it turned around. So how'd you like this week for the Packers?
Yeah, look, I mean, like, ultimately, I really liked it. There was a lot of things I loved. There was a lot of things that, I mean, not a lot of things I didn't like. There's some things I didn't like, and there's some things that just, in the overall context of the season, that are quite frustrating. But, like, I mean, what I liked is we won that game. I mean, in terms of before we walked into that, we had no right to win. I mean, as I was talking about on our pick show, I couldn't see a path. Like, it was one of those games where I thought, even if Dallas play below themselves, even if we exceed what we have been, we can't win, and it probably won't be close. But they played well. What I liked is that finally, and I guess my likes and my frustrations are the same thing, because finally they did what most analysts, most just armchair fans were saying they should do in a lot of these things, and unfortunately a lot of it were they've been forced in these situations. Like, I mean, they ran Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, had 100 yards, over 100 yards rushing. He had 4 10-plus yard runs. Like, he killed, like, they couldn't stop him, which, you know what? It's not rocket science. Most teams can't stop Aaron Jones, okay? So they lent on that. Rodgers made good selections with the RPOs. He passed when he should pass. He handed off when he should hand off, and it paid dividends. Still, there is, even though it came off with a fantastic touchdown to Christian Watson, I still don't understand the passing it deep on 3 and 2 and 3 and 3 and that kind of thing. Makes no sense to me. Never will. But
we were talking about that when it happened. I don't think they had come back yet. I think it was maybe after they were only down a touchdown, but it was like 3 and 3, and Rodgers ends up getting sacked because you just see all the wide receivers just clear off the screen because they're all running deep on a 3rd and 3, and we were like, there it is. That's exactly what Mike talks about every week, is that they're just going deep on a you run those slant routes, you run like a hitch route, but they're all just clearing out, and then they're not open, and Rodgers takes the sack there. But
yeah, and I mean, if you want to do those things, that's when the team is humming. You're already up by a fair bit. You can take that risk, but like, while the team isn't humming, and on top of that, like, Rodgers just does it so much that it's not like that play works when you're catching the defense off guard. That play works when most times you're going to do what every team does, is you're going to try to punch the ball over to get a new set of downs. You know what I mean? They're obviously hedging their bets, but really the surprise to the defense would be to run the ball, like, because he barely ever does it. But in any case, it obviously paid off, and it was a huge play. It was a huge play in context of the game. It was a huge play to be, like, not to be over the top in Christian Watson's season. I mean, not season, career. I mean, he needed that, and you could see the
Right.
confidence he got out of it because not only was it turned the game around. I mean, it was a very hard catch. I mean, veteran wide receivers dropped
It
those.
it
It was
it's what you want to see. When you spend a higher pick for a wide receiver, that first game when he dropped that wide open touchdown pass, you thought, "Oh, I hope this doesn't sort of plague him all year." But
mm,
you didn't want it to wait till week 10, but this was his coming out party, and
yeah,
you hope that
three touchdowns.
you hope that he takes this confidence that he just got and will continue to excel for the rest of the year.
Exactly, and the signs there are good because you could see like a weight was lifted off him when he got that. He went on to have two more touchdowns and just he's got such speed. I mean, that the second it was either the second or third touchdown he got. I mean, he broke away from that defender like the guy was standing still. Like he was just there was nothing on. The next minute, Watson's in a yard of space. Like it was ridiculous. So, and he looks like the kind of player that a lot of players with the kind of the start they've had to their NFL career, they would get that touchdown. It would just kind of be like it'd be relief. But he does the standing backflip and that. And I was listening to Ross Uglum, who's followed a lot of his college career and that, and he said like he's got like the memory of a cornerback. Like you know what I mean? Like he just puts all that stuff behind, and what he's thinking about now is that touchdown. So there's a lot of good signs there. The other thing I liked was Rudy Ford. Two interceptions, and good interception. This is once again the frustration I have is that he's only playing because they were forced into it because of the amount of injuries they've had on the defense. Whereas all through preseason, every opportunity he's had, he's looked like a stud. But they've been forced into this rather where he should have been, he should have been the first or second choice, but he's third string and he's there because of injuries. Much the same as Watson. Watson should have been the outside receiver like he was in that game. That's what suits his position. But he was only put there because of the injury to Romeo Dobbs. Now, not that Dobbs shouldn't be there either, but you should. It should be probably Dobbs and Watson and Lazard filling into that slot role with Cobb out, this kind of stuff. But it was the successes are there not so much through great coaching, but through no other options. Which that's a frustration. And my other frustration from this game, not that I want to be too frustrated, because all in all, I am absolutely stoked with that victory and. Not getting ahead of myself, I feel like that might kick us a bit into gear into the rest of this season. But the prevent defense at the end of the half, it just doesn't work. Like, stop doing it. Joe Barry, he has them kind of geared up, and most of the half they're going at it. But as soon as it gets to, I mean, we gave them that touchdown because if you're just going to give all this space in front, they're just going to go, cool, I'll take it. Like, I understand the principle of, standing back, not letting anything big over the top. But when you're giving them the ball with a minute and a half, they don't need anything big over the top. They'll just take that space, for 10, 11 yards each time. Thanks very much. They're at least getting a field goal. If not, they're getting a touchdown. And when you've got a defense playing like this is, like they're playing gassed up, they're getting to the quarterback and that, you've just got to keep doing that. And at the end of the day, if they get you over the top for a touchdown, you just got to tip your hat and go, well done. You've done that. But you're almost, it's like they're, okay, yes, if you keep playing that, there's a chance they get you over the top and they get the touchdown. By playing back, you are guaranteeing they get a touchdown. Makes no sense to me. I don't particularly think Joe Barry is a very good defensive coordinator, so it made no sense to me hiring him. So
the Steelers have been doing that at the end of the half all year. Like the Saints marched down on them to score a touchdown to tie it at halftime with like 20 seconds left, and it was like the Saints never looked better than that drive. And then all of a sudden, like the Steelers were dominating all half, then they just let the Saints walk down and score, which also kind of a BS pass interference call, in my opinion, happens where, the wide receiver goes up to catch the ball, the Steelers player hits him and jars the ball loose, but he's given, not a pass interference, but like like roughing basically, like he was given like hit on a defensive receiver, which I think is bullshit because he played the wide receiver and he made him drop the ball. But it is weird, like end of like 2-minute drills, they just don't do well. It's this weird like bend don't break defense when they do that, and it's like, well, you're just letting them chip 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards. Why do you change in your defense when you were completely dominating them the whole game? But yeah, it probably does feel good. I mean, like we were saying, talking live during the Packers game, they were down 2 touchdowns. They looked done. They looked cooked. They were, kind of having some weird play calls there, and then all of a sudden, Rodgers and Christian Watkins just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so,
it's just it is, that game for him is so important. Like and you could see that Rodgers, because Rodgers does have a habit of not trusting receivers when they drop in that kind of thing. But and I mean, in a lot of ways, he hasn't had a lot of choice with the injuries they've had at receiver and that. But you could see like he caught that, and the trust was back there. So I think it was really important. And look, as I said to you, during the game, I'm just so happy for him. Like you would know, you can feel what it would feel like for these young receivers coming in and having a few drops in that. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, all players have drops, even vets do. But it's kind of that. It's your first year. It would just feel awful. But it must have, he must have felt pretty good in the locker room after that game.
That reminds me. I think Larry Fitzgerald, I think, retired with more tackles than drops in his career. Like, I think he only had
that's incredible.
3 or 4 drops his entire career.
That's
because he had
you look at stuff like that, and you can think that that's the norm, but I mean that just shows what a freak he was, because that is not normal.
No, that is not normal. But yeah, so good week for our teams. The Packers are more in it now, being at 4-6, and the Steelers are 3-6. But like I did say, there is a lot of congestion in the NFC wild card race right now. So. If the Packers run off another 2 here and they get to 500 at 6-6, there's some wiggle room there where they might throw themselves back in there. So I think obviously, but I think these next 2 games will determine what happens with the Packers season. I think if they win both, they're right there. Even if they lose one, to be 5-7 after these next 2 games, I don't think is great, but it's these next 2. I think for both of our teams, these next 2 games will tell you what's going to happen the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're important. Well, need to at least win one, but really I think it's important, at least for the Packers, that we win the 2, not just for the standings, but to keep this momentum. Like the worst thing that can happen is they go out and they lose to the Titans in week 11, because they'd have this feeling of, okay, it's all clicking. If you go out and lose, and especially if you lose badly, all of a sudden you're back to square one. You feel like, it's all gone.
This is kind of one of the weird scenarios where you are kind of happy that you have a short week this week, because they just played. So if they have that confidence, they play 4 days later. Can that carry over for them? So this is kind of one of where the short weeks might be advantageous for the Packers, because
I agree.
They're keeping their momentum from their last game. They 2 score. They were down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. So like that, I'm sure that feels great. But there was a lot of with that Packers game, there was a lot of upsets this week. It was a lot of fun. What is now labeled as the game of the year so far is Minnesota again at
crazy
Buffalo,
game.
which
Crazy
it
game.
Really was. Minnesota scores first, and then Buffalo scores like 50 billion points, and then all of a sudden Minnesota comes back and they fail to score on a 4th and inch from the inch-yard line, and then Josh Allen fumbles the snap. Yeah, right. I went, great. Okay, we picked the Bills. We're gonna get a win there, and then all of a sudden, from watching it, you don't even see the ball get fumbled. You just see the Viking players like freak out.
Yeah. And I was actually talking to a Bills fan about this, like pretty much just after it happened, and like like that call makes no sense. Okay, yes, there was a fumble between the center and the quarterback. That happens, but like take the safety.
Right,
Like
it would be better to
if
take the safety if,
yeah,
like, give the ball to the running back. Like like Josh Allen
100%.
is a running guy, but like still,
either give it to the running back or do a genuine pass to get out of there. Because at the end of the day, obviously, unless you throw an interception or the running back drops it, at the end of the day, worst case scenario, you can see the safety. And
still have
pretty
the
much
lead.
The game's over. Minnesota can't win with the safety. You've still got the lead. You kick it out. I can't remember how many seconds would have been left, but it wouldn't have been much. It wouldn't have been enough. Like it was.
Had they
a bad
taken it
call.
right then, I think there was about 40-ish seconds left.
Yeah. So
and you look at the rest of that game. Then Buffalo has to come down and kick a field goal, and they're aided by a penalty, but also Josh Allen leads them down, and they tie it on on what people have been saying, isn't a catch by Davis on the sideline, which it wasn't. You can clearly see on the replay it was not. But
so whether you want to, maybe there's a bit of football gods karma in there or something. But yes, I mean it was a cracking game, but you've got to be very that was the Bills game.
To win, yeah, that would have that cements you on the top of the AFC. Really, now losing that game
would have done a big favor to you assholes.
Yeah, now their division is wide open now between the Jets, them, and the Dolphins. So, that was a fun game too. It kind of felt like a playoff game. Not that it necessarily reminded me of KC Buffalo last year, but just the environment, the plays that happen and stuff like that, and Buffalo's going down to at least tie. That game may end in a tie, which is better than a loss, even though ties are boring. But, then Josh Allen, I don't know what he's doing throwing that ball right there. I mean, he didn't even, if maybe he throws it up more, his wide receiver has a chance, but he threw it right to Patrick Peterson. So that was a weird thing. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to talk about is what do you think about that call on that Heineke knee last night for the Commanders to win?
I actually missed that game. So do you want to tell me about it?
Sure. So what happened was the Commanders beat Philadelphia last night and ended their undefeated season. And what happened was there was about a minute 45 seconds left, and it was 3rd and 7, and Heineke rolls out right, and he talks about this after the game. It was basically only throw the ball if your guy is wide open, because they want to have the clock move, because they were up by, I believe, about 5 or 6 points. So a field goal wouldn't have helped the Eagles. Just don't throw an interception and don't go out of bounds. Don't stop the clock. Basically, they wanted the Eagles to either waste their final timeout or waste about 40 seconds. So Heineke's rolling right. He doesn't see his guy open, so he takes a knee. So he falls down, takes a knee, and as he's standing there, an Eagles player comes and hits him. He's then called for not roughing the passer, but, unsportsmanlike conduct. The guy had given himself up. It wasn't like he was going to a knee and the Eagle player tackled him. It was knee. The guy was about 6-7 yards away and still ran and hit him. So what happened was that he gets called for a 15-yard penalty. That gives the Commanders a first down. There's a minute 40 left. The Eagles only have one timeout, and they're able to wind the clock down and win. So people are a little upset with the call. In my opinion, it is that I think it's a good penalty in the sense that he did, Heineke did give himself up. He went down on a knee, and then the runner clearly had a lot of time to stop and not hit him. Now, Heineke did sell it a little bit, but I don't understand what the Eagles guys think in there, especially on a quarterback. And people are saying, oh, it didn't look like he knelt down. He kind of fell down, and people, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch the replay, he clearly kneels down. So people are saying that, Heineke, cheated a little, made it seem like he fell instead of taking a knee or something. It's all bullshit. If Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers does that, it's the smartest play in the world. But because a kind of not unproven guy, but some guy does it, it's considered like a cheap thing. But the Eagles player, you gotta not hit the quarterback there. Like if you watch it, he has a good while to stop. Like there is an Eagles player there that is kind of starting to tackle him, which if he's the only one that hits him, I don't think a penalty is called because he's standing right there. But this other guy just comes running in and crushes him. So the other big thing is there was a big turnover last night for the Eagles fumbled the ball. However, during the fumble, the runner gets face masked very bad, which causes the fumble. And unfortunately, it was not called somehow, and it led to a turnover, and it led to the Commanders getting more points, which basically not sealed the game, but made sure that the Eagles had to go down and score a touchdown to win. So people are upset about that, thinking that, face masks should be reviewable, because it was a pretty egregious face mask. It was kind of crazy that it was not called, but...
well, I don't understand why they're not reviewable. I mean, it's obviously something that can have clear evidence on it, and I don't...
And it's player safety, so like if you say like, hey, like sometimes hey, it's reviewable, so really don't do it, because if you're seeing that... Now, I guess it comes down to there's some of those plays where, you might be touching the face mask but not, and they're worried they're going to call a face mask or something, but I feel like a face mask should be reviewable, because even if it's called a face mask and it clearly wasn't, it should be able to be overturned. That should go both ways.
At least, make it reviewable, but have clear guidelines on it, like... because obviously when you're reviewing something in slow motion, it can be hard to tell, and you don't want a situation where, they review it in slow motion, and every time the hand just grazes the face mask, they're going to say contact its face mask. But, make it so that if on replay there is clear both grabbing and pulling motion, then it's a face mask. You know what I mean? Like make it clear and make it reviewable.
Yeah. So people are saying, Philly got screwed, but they played like crap all game, really. I mean, they were down at halftime to the Commanders. The Commanders came out and just played better than them. So, yes, it sucks that these two things happened, with minutes left in the game. But, I mean, the Eagles, don't want to say they didn't deserve to win, but they had opportunities other than that they sort of squandered away. So, the Commanders, the Washington football team, have ended... The last two, the Steelers were undefeated in 2020 and lost to at that point they were the Washington football team, and now the Eagles. So the two Pennsylvania teams, their undefeated seasons have been ended by the Commanders in the last two seasons. So, which is just kind of funny. But yeah, so it was a weird week. Like, when we do our pick show here, we did crap on our picks. There was a lot of, kind of upsets this week. There was a lot of crazy games, a lot of stuff that came out of this to talk about. But, so that was our Week 10 review for Week 10 of the 2022 NFL season. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and leave a comment. Let us know how you thought this week went. But we appreciate you guys for checking us out, and we hope you have a nice day.
See you guys.